Hola. Hola, hola.
Hi, chicken. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Debriana.
Hi, nice to see you. The chicken's very excited.
I don't do that often.
I know, right? That's a little scary to hear, actually.
Oh my God. Welcome to Tuesdays with Holly's Homegrown, which could be a thing. Yay!
We're excited.
Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Thank you so much. It was a hit last time, and everybody needs to know about salt.
Well, we're hoping to share common things. Next week, we'll do olive oil, things that you have every day already in your kitchen and use all the time. But sometimes people get confused because there's so much information on the label or in a commercial or an advertisement. And it's really hard to sort of comb through all of that and understand what's good and what's not. So we're going to try to help you out here and give you a few bits of info to help you be a better shopper and a little better consumer and what's better for you to eat as well.
Yay!
Awesome. We're excited.
Lay it on us.
Lay it on. All right.
I see a dog behind you, Lisa.
What?
Is that a dog by your side?
Oh, yes. I have a cleanly groomed Monty and Edgar. Edgar's passed out. It was a day at the spa. He's exhausted.
Oh, that's so nice. They got to have a spa day.
I wish I could go.
One.
Just one. How about a half of one? I'll take a half of one.
Yeah.
One. Yeah.
Any kind of grooming would be good. Anyway.
Grooming at this point is a plus. Okay. Well, shall we talk salt?
Yes.
Let's talk salt.
So salt. So this is a sea salt that I use in my products, and I prefer sea salts. One of the reasons why is they do have generally a higher mineral content, and actually they have some potassium in them, which is great. As everybody knows, salt is a natural preservative. That's why it was used for so long and for thousands of years before modern refrigeration. And that makes it an ideal, it also is good at killing bacteria. So it's ideal to transport food. So it really was sort of the bedrock of building our food system. What else? Oh, sodium and chloride. So sodium is essential for nerve and muscle function. That's good. Chloride, important electrolyte for regulating blood pH and blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So this, wait a second, and I'm not claiming, disclaimer, we know nothing about, health stuff.
We're not doctors here.
We're not doctors. But isn't it interesting that you grow up, well, at least in the 70s and 80s, of like that whole anti-salt movement of too much sodium, because there is the massive sodium that comes in like instant soups and all that kind of stuff, and then what you're talking about, and it's really different, right?
Correct. So here's the deal about salt is that modern processed food, they use a lot of salt because salt enhances flavor. That's what it does, and that's why it's so fantastic. However, when you're eating a lot of processed foods, you are consuming that sodium. And then you're also then adding salt to your food. So you're getting double, triple. I mean, processed food, fast food, the sodium content are, enough, way too much than you should be having. If you were just adding your salt to your food, it's actually much easier to stay within the guidelines that doctors and medical people recommend. So that's where we run into trouble.
Controlling the salt. You can't control how much salt is in the prepared food because it's already in there.
Correct. So one of the reasons why we're going to make a seasoning salt today is to also help you regulate your own salt, how much you want, how little you want. And that way, when you're instead of purchasing it, you can actually do a better job regulating it. But it really is in the processed foods where we get into the over salt trouble. Lisa's my big sister's always right. Isn't that funny how that works?
I have this on tape right now.
I know. Well, I always say that anyway. That's nothing new. This is what you say. You got that on tape for over the years.
I can just play it on demand.
Right. You were right. This is right. So the other thing we need to be mindful of with salts are the anti-caking agents that they put in them. Those generally are man-made. They're generally made from not good things like aluminum and some other scary things. So it's really important when you're purchasing salt to check the label for those anti-caking agents. A lot of people recommend that those are not a good thing for you. And most salts you just don't need them. So that's another thing. So the question I get asked most by my customers and when I do classes is, what's the deal with all the differences of the salt? The Himalayan salt, the Celtic salt, the French gray salt, the sodium. A lot of that and kosher salt. So the most popular, and especially one of the ones that's very popular now, is Himalayan salt. Himalayan's pink salt, and it gets the pink from, actually, it's an iron, a rust essentially, that's in the mountains. It's actually in Pakistan, and it's one of the largest salt mines in the world. And so Himalayan salt also has one of the highest levels of potassium and other good nutrients in it. So it's a nutrient wise, it's actually a really good salt to use. I use it a lot in cooking too. Even though it has a lesser sodium amount, it's a very strong salt. So a little goes a long way. When I first started using it, I was like, wow, I really oversalted my food. And it was you just don't need as much. Another favorite of mine is French gray sea salt.
So pretty.
Salt beds in France, and it's fantastic, and it has lots of good minerals. And the clay in it is the gray color. It's literally the dirt, the soil, but it really gives a depth of earthy flavor to food that's really wonderful. And Celtic salt is another favorite of mine from the North Sea. It's fantastic. It's just a really rich, high mineral sea salt. So those are some of the ones I use. I always try out different salts where I go. When we were in Mexico, I got a local sea salt that had sort of a gray brown. It was delicious. And then in Hawaii, there's a red
the black salt.
Yeah, I have a black one from
and
Hawaii.
then there's the black lava. They all, if you think about it, if you're mining it from the ground or you're dehydrating it from the sea, it represents what the atmosphere and what's around it and how you get all those amazing colors and flavors. It absorbs that. So kosher salt, people ask about also. We always hear people on cooking shows talking about kosher salt. Salt is not an actual type of salt from a specific region. It's just a salt. Kosher is the Jewish traditional food preparation and regulation sort of laws and rules that they use for their food preparation. And this is their certified salt. It can be sea salt. It could be table salt. It can come from really anywhere. In general, it has larger flakes to it. And that can be more desirable when you're cooking.
What about like Morton salt and with iodine and not iodine and stuff like that?
Right. Well, they started putting iodine in salt because it actually was sort of like when they started adding fluoride to water. They thought it would benefit for people's dental health. Well, iodized salt was to help with brain deficiency and thyroid issues. So they were adding iodine, which is very good for all of those things. So they started doing it sort of as a global health initiative to really boost people's iodine levels, because they found that did a lot, especially for infants, for birth defects, specifically for brain development. So again, iodine you can get in a lot of foods naturally, seafood, seaweed, so you have to be careful to regulate, too much iodine. If you're someone who already eats a lot of those foods, you really don't need to be eating the iodized salt. But if you don't, it's not a bad idea.
So here's my question about kosher salt. I always feel like kosher salt is a stronger salt.
It's actually not flavor-wise, because it's in these larger flakes. The ratio is not 1-to-1 for table salt. So if you I haven't used table salt in a really long time, iodized.
Yeah, I don't either.
So if you do, and you have a recipe that asks you for kosher salt, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's more like a 2-to-1, more kosher salt, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I think a lot of us, kosher salt has become so popular, and the larger flake salt has become so popular, and as sea salt has become more popular, I think that I haven't cooked it with as much as it, but it really actually it's more kosher salt. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. Anyway, to answer your question.
So someone says, there's a viewer says sea vegetables are a great source of iodine. Also saying, could you have a subtitle about what you're talking about? Up that says Salt 101 or something.
I could do that. I will do that because I'm technically proficient.
And I also like to tell everybody, we can't see your name. So if you want to identify yourself, that would be great.
If you're one of my kids or a cousin, that would be good to know.
If you're a relative,
Mom.
Hi, Mom. Anyways, okay. So that's really interesting. But, and also I remember watching that, used to watch Jamie Oliver all the time, like many years ago. And he always used to say that, we always, as Americans, we undersalt our meats. Like we don't understand. Like remember when you were making meatloaf, Debriana, and you had all the salt and everything. It's like I remember just as a kid going over to people's house and having like the saltless meatloaf for dinner or whatever. And it's just meat needs salt. Don't be afraid.
Yes, it does.
Well, and when you're using some of these other types of salts, they really have a different flavor profile too. Salt's one of those things. It's like teas or wines or the olive oils. It's amazing. I actually took an entire 3-hour class about salt with the local guy who has Oaktown Spices, who has this amazing spice store. And it's just one of those things. There's a ton to learn about. So it's fun to, like anything else, it's fun to experiment with different things. But definitely don't be afraid to salt your food.
Okay, so this is Lizette from Moraga in Northern California.
I know Lizette very well.
She loves it.
Anyway, they've identified themselves.
Yes, she has.
She's an amazing chef.
Yeah.
P.S.
Yes, Lizette is a member of Corona Kitchen, and her photos are incredible of her food. So good on you, Lizette.
It sounded like you said lasagna, Lizette.
That's next week. We're doing that next week.
That's right.
Lasagna's coming. Okay, so Hollie, in your business, Hollie's Homegrown, which is online and at many farmers markets.
Available online now.
You sell seasoning salts. That's one of your key items. So how many different salts do you have in your line?
It depends on the time of year and the season, because I grow all of my own herbs. I only use the herbs and the fruits that I grow. It depends on the time of year, but anywhere from 5 to 15 different ones. And they're just it's been really fun to make up. I didn't start out to do the seasoning salts, but I had such a huge demand for it from customers, because I just was doing the plain, herbs and the basil and this and that. And people really wanted a shortcut, something that was easier, something that was faster. Everybody's busy. So this was a nice way to be able to do a good, clean product that didn't have any of the caking agents, that had all the great freshly dried herbs that I grow and make, and help people with flavor profiles. I think one of the toughest things with cooking is, we all have our go-to dishes, and it's hard to jazz up the roasted chicken for the 97th time. And so what's nice with the seasoning salt is that you can really vary the flavor profile, and with little effort. So that's sort of
I have to say, I've definitely learned that from Debriana being a part of Corona Kitchen, because she's just like opened my mind as well as you have, Hollie, and I use your salts all the time, but then also watching Debriana, grind her things and toast her cumin and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been doing that. And it makes such a difference. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. I'm excited to learn what you do. It's fun.
Well, it's also just, the thing too, is that, people are like, oh, you're giving away your trade secrets. I'm like, people have been doing this a very long time. And this is not a secret. There are no secrets here. I teach classes how to make my own products. And it's not a secret. So nobody, yes. I want you to go and grow this stuff. And, what we're going to talk about too is that what's in your spice. Sometimes we call it the spice museum or your spice.
Oh, right.
What's in there that you can make yourself that you like and that's interesting for you too.
Also, I think it's good when you're in a restaurant and you taste something that you really love. There's no harm in saying to the waiter to ask the chef, hey, what's in this? This is so good. And you could try to recreate it,
Definitely. Well, on that note, should we make seasoning salt?
Yes. Let's make something.
Okay. So this is where is it? Here it is.
I do the same thing.
This is some mint from my garden. I grow about 11 varieties of mint. This one's called mint julep. It's actually a great cocktail. In fact, we had mojitos Memorial Day yesterday with this mint. It's a nice soft leaf mint. It's a good culinary. It's a great fresh mint too. So this is the mint, and watch this. Ta-da! It's dried. It's the mint dried. We just dried it. I always want people to invest in television. So I always tell people to go just buy a very inexpensive dehydrator, even if it's $19.99 at Target or online or it's worth it for those extra herbs, because people always wonder, they're like, oh my God, I have so much oregano or I have so much mint or whatever it is. It's really easy to dry them, and then you just store them in mason jars. Go to the hardware store.
I love mason jars.
My love of mason.
They're like the mason jar society. Here's
one right here.
I'm the mason jar cool. So, but in glass again as a container, that's a whole nother show. Anyway,
we're all in agreement, but we talk about it at some point.
Yeah, we should. Containers.
Yeah,
containers is an important one. You should get Heidi on here. She'll talk about.
Have a doctor tell you about why not to use plastic. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, anyhoodle. Moving on. So this is lime, and the great part about dehydrators is what I do is I literally I just slice off the skins and then I just dehydrate it, and it gets nice and. You can hear it's nice and hard. And if you keep it in a mason jar, dried, it actually really preserves it well. And in 3 months from now, once you put this in the grinder, you're gonna have an unbelievable lime aroma. It's just really amazing how long the dried lemon, all the citruses are great. Also, we got some hot pepper because I like a little spicy pepper.
We're big on hot in here.
I love the hot pepper.
This is a variety I grow. Called chile de árbol. It's all peppers are originally from Mexico and Central America, but they have grown beautifully here thanks to climate change. It's nice and hot here, so we get.
Yeah, let's talk about how hot it is where you are right now.
Yeah, it's 100 degrees outside right now. But the peppers the last few years have been doing really well here. So this also I grind into a powder. And I like adding just a little bit to this. It gives it some good flavor. So
Lizette, the viewer says, I use your chili lime salt in my beef cured salmon. Came out amazing.
Thanks, Lizette. My plant. So this is whoops, it's all plugged in. Hold on, I'll be right back.
This happens all the time on Corona Kitchen. Okay.
This is a grinder. This is what you'll see these for smoothies and all that. There's different blades. This blade is to grind it into a finer powder. This is if you just kind of want to coarsely grind it. Can you guys get it?
So it's a blender or a grinder?
It's actually both.
A blind grinder.
Blinder.
I use a coffee grinder
my daughter's name, so I had to buy it. But I also have Cuisinart makes these. You can use a coffee grinder. Just make sure you designate it as your spice grinder, because if you're a coffee drinker, you don't want to be drinking
No.
pepper the next day.
No.
So just, they're not, you can get them relatively inexpensively, and it's great because that way you don't have to worry about it. So this is going to get loud.
We know about that.
We're used to it.
Okay. Your little funnel. So I'm going to take the lime first. We're just going to add some here. We're going to throw it in the grinder, and then.
How much is that?
This is, this is about.
Oh, she's your sister.
This is about a half a cup.
Okay.
Okay.
See,
And
it doesn't measure like me. Debrianna always gets on me because I never measure anything.
I'm a measurer.
We don't measure. We're not measurers. It's not in our DNA. Sorry. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Okay. Here we go. Here comes the noise. Okay. Oh, I didn't plug it in. Hold on.
She's your sister. She's your sister.
Another family trait. Another family trait for kids.
Do you need this extension cord? Lisa has one.
We're living line here. I can't hear anything you're saying.
Your lips are moving. I can't hear.
Now that everybody's deaf.
Oh, wow. That really ground it into a lime powder. That is so
that's nice.
That is so cool.
Smells amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay, so that's your limes. Then we take our mint. And again, you can decide the ratios you like. In general, I do about a 50-50 salt to herb ratio. And when you're grinding it into a finer powder, you won't necessarily always see all that. It may look like it's more salt than it is, but definitely the flavor's there. So we're going to do the mint's going to go super fast. That's it. There's the mint.
Debrianna does a vanilla sugar, and do you put it in your salt too?
Yeah, I do. I have vanilla sugar and vanilla salt.
Wow.
The sugars are amazing too, and it's great because they really coat and absorb the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there is our lime.
Oh, how beautiful.
Oh, nice. That looks so nice. Okay.
I'm going to add a little pepper. Now, normally, just quick information timeout. If you're grinding pepper, so these were whole, and I ground them. Always, always, always wear a mask, okay? Because if you
my God.
Wear a mask? Another mask?
No. And gloves.
Is it
Oh my God! I need to know this because I'd probably choke. Oh God!
So the very first time I used to grow these little Thai peppers, and they're amazing, and they're super hot, but they are delicious. They have great flavor. And when I first started making the salts, I was like, oh, I had a little coffee spice grinder, and I was in my kitchen, like just trying to test it, and I was like, wow, this is working. It's really grinding. And I open it up. And I literally choked to death. The kids are little. The kids start coughing. My husband's like, what's going on in there? We're all like, it was bad.
Mad scientist.
It's not good. Not good. Not smart.
Okay,
So
good to know.
wear your gloves and always, always, always wear a mask when you're dealing with peppers. Okay.
Turns out we all have a mask on hand right now. So.
Oddly enough.
You happen to have a few lying around. I don't know, global pandemic reasons. So we're going to add this pepper is I already ground this, so I saved us all from me being in a mask again. But that's sort of the ratio there, if you can
Okay.
Okay.
That looks so good.
Very pretty.
So then we're going to take here, Bella. We're going to take a quick picture of it. Can you take a picture of it?
Oh yeah, take a
Oh,
picture.
you have an assistant.
I'm here, my lovely assistant, Bella. Would you come over?
Bella, come
Hello,
in.
Bella.
Hello, Bella. Vanna White.
Okay.
Hi,
This is
Bella.
So
Nice.
we're going to take a quick picture and then we'll post this so you guys can all see what we were doing. We'll add
So
the
you're
salt.
putting just as much salt as you have.
I
seasoned.
am. So we'll show you. Take a quick pic of it. Well, I'm not the greatest picture taker. Okay.
We have a contest for that.
Yeah. So now you have your your 3 items, and then I just take it and I literally just hand toss it.
With your hand. Okay.
Because what it does is when you're doing this, you're coating the salt crystals because the lime has a lot of oil in it naturally. And when you ground it down like that, you really get a lot of the, you really want to coat the salt.
If you do it with the spoon, it's not the same.
No, you have to use your hands. You're going to have to use your hands on this one. Okay. It really makes a difference. You're just going to have to trust me on that.
Just pretend you're Italian.
Okay.
Use your hand.
Capi.
All right. And there you go. There's our lime.
Oh, that looks good.
Beautiful.
See it?
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And Bella will take another picture. Come here, baby. And what's great about it is that this is, so the flavor profile on this is great because you can add, I put this in guacamole, in avocado toast, a pot of pinto beans. It's great on flank steak. It's good. So for those of you wanting to try this at home, think of things and flavors that you like. Do you like lemon, flavors? You can dehydrate your lemons and just make a nice lemon salt. If you like, it doesn't have to just be herbs either. You can do, like you were talking about, there's lots of great, amazing spices. And also you can add black pepper to these things. I don't grow peppercorns, can't grow them here in my climate, but things like that. I try to think of like the salts and the peppers. How else can you get sort of those flavors? Salt's always going to enhance everything, but parsley is a great substitute for pepper because it has a nice peppery flavor profile to it. Things like nasturtiums. I make a nasturtium salt. It has a peppery, like a ground peppery kind of flavor that's really good, different. So there are lots of herbs and other spices that can help enhance that flavor profile too, depending on what you want to do. So,
wow,
thank you. That would probably be great on the rim of a margarita.
Yeah.
So I have several customers that have told me that is a very good idea, and that they've done it. It's a good one. I mean, you can come up with whatever you like. I mean, it's good to think about the things that you like to eat already, and then this is just a way to kind of change it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
So you can take last piece of advice, you have your salt. I'm taking my gloves off. Put it in a jar, okay? Find a nice, glass kind of mason jar. I like to use the ones with the wider rim because it's easier to get in and pinch. If you get it too small, it's hard. But this could be, a reuse, something that you bought before that had olives in it or whatever. So don't go out and buy a bunch of new stuff if you already have condiments and things in your refrigerator. Just throw them in the your dishwasher and sanitize them first. It's always, always important to label what is in here.
I'm always telling my husband that if you put that in the freezer without a label, in about a week, I will not know what that is because it won't look like what you just put in the freezer.
It's very, very, very important. Not only to put what it is, but the date.
Oh, yes.
Yes. These are free tips here, people. Free tips. So it's really, really, really important. I know it doesn't seem like it's important the day that you made it, but in a month, it's going to be super important because you're not going to remember what the heck that was. So.
Yeah. Also, Hollie, were you saying once that you don't really want to keep your spices over a year? Like, I mean, I would use all mine,
Right. Spices have an expiration date. They're not wine. They don't age well at all. Really, after a year, they lose about half of their flavor. So, especially herbs. Spices last a little longer, just because of the nature of they're generally bark and roots. So they have a little more intense flavor. But herbs really, it's about a year and then half. The nice thing about making the salts, though, is that salt's a natural preservative. And so this is actually going to make the flavors last longer in here because you've now, part of the reason why you want to hand toss it to really coat the salt with the flavors so that they sort of meld and marry. And then that way it actually lasts longer.
That's
wow.
So the salts are about 2 years. Maybe less. You're going to go through it because you know what? You made it and you're going to love it. And so you'll use it.
I just learned some stuff, Debrianna.
I did too. I love it. Hey, I understand there's a couple of organizations that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, we our family is a big supporter of the food bank in Contra Costa County here because of the COVID issues. There have been so many people that have been dependent on the food bank. So as a family, we support them. We volunteer there. So if you can, please donate. The other is the James Beard Relief Fund, and they've created a fund to help small business restaurants and their employees, the people that work there.
Oh, that's great.
They're just really, they're all struggling. So it's been really hard. Hopefully now, slowly, if we start opening things up, some people can get hired back. But in the interim, it's really great if you have it. And it doesn't take, $5, $10. It does a lot.
What's it like there in the East Bay of Northern California in terms of what's happening with the COVID and everything? What's it like?
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit before, that we were one of the 5 counties to first go shelter in place in the country. Santa Clara, and then San Francisco, Contra Costa, Alameda. And so we've been at shelter in place. I think we're on week 10, 9. And now California has let up. They're in phase 2, what our governor is calling phase 2 of loosening up some of the restrictions. But our county, along with those other counties, is not doing that. So restaurants are not opening up here, and what's happening in other parts of our state are not happening here.
That's kind of like us in New Mexico. We're still really locked down. We have allowed some businesses to have curbside and some certain things, like I could go to the dog groomer today, but everybody had a mask on and was very, socially distant. And so it's interesting how it's different all across our country.
It's hard because we live in a very densely populated area. I mean, out where we sort of live out in the suburbs, but we're in very close proximity to a major metropolitan area. And, anytime you get a lot of people living in a small amount of space, it's a problem, and it doesn't take much. I mean, to have someone, to have an infection and outbreak happen. So people here have been really good. I mean, everybody's really trying. I mean, I know people are frustrated and it's hard. But overall, I think everyone's just trying to be really respectful of keeping things from spreading. So,
yeah, good. Well, everybody stay safe and wear a mask, not just when you're
not just for pepper,
chili,
not just for salt,
but definitely wear pepper.
Thank you so much, Hollie, for sharing with us. It's a joy. It's a joy every time, and we're gonna see you next Tuesday.
So next Tuesday we'll be talking olive oils, and we're gonna
we'll make
this Italian girl is so happy.
Oh my God! So we'll talk olive oils about infusing them with herbs, and then kind of what's the deal with the extra virgin, all that. There's a lot where they come from.
No, what's the deal with the extra virgin?
Come on. extra virgin? What?
You can be extra virgin. You know this?
Super virgin olive oil. Right.
I'm closing my chicken's ears.
That's not for your chicken's ears.
Yeah, that's not for your little chicken ears.
No. But there's a lot of great producers here in California. Lots of good local people to support. So olive oil is another one. It's like you could spend a lifetime learning about it and still not know everything. So
cool. I'm excited about that. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And have a good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And do please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. That will super help us. And this episode will be up in the YouTube channel in case you're just joining us and you missed it.
Yes. And we'll send Hollie the link and she'll have it on her website as well and her Instagram and everything. So
onward and upward, I tell you.
Yay!
Yay! And we do have another special guest this week on Thursday. Yes. We'll be announcing. So there's a little bit fluttering around on Facebook now. So get ready to join us on Thursday.
We're getting special guests all the time now. It's so fun.
Special.
Respectful.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.